Hello everyone! Welcome to the vast anonymous comic vault. It is I, Captain Logan, and joining me tonight is Austin the Day Ghost.
How's it going?
It's been a long time, folks, since we've done a vault where we picked the thing and it didn't have request in the title. So I'm excited about that. Austin and I have been threatening and talking for a long time about trying to make the show more regular, happen more regularly again. And we did a really great job of that for about 2-3 weeks, and then my schedule for the Captain Logan show changed and the whole thing kind of fell apart. And we're gonna try to do these on Mondays as often as possible. That's the plan right now. It may not happen every time, especially when there's new movies we've got to review, but we're hoping for more comic material on the channel. And Austin and I are going back and forth, and it was my turn, so I picked a story that people have been wanting me to talk about front to back for a long time. I've talked about the first issue, but have never done the whole thing. And I think this is the first time I've actually read the last couple of issues, Austin, because I think I read each of them as not just as they came out, but like I caught up with it at one point, and then I thought the rest of it was done. I was reading it in digital, and then 5 wasn't out yet, and I was like, I waited this long and it's delayed like this far, and it was delayed by
Riddler Year One.
It was delayed by months because I think the artist, how do you pronounce his last name? Is it Joe Quinones?
I guess. I don't know.
I'm really not sure how you say his name. But anyway, this is not an artist that I'm really familiar with outside of this. I don't think. I certainly have never attempted to say his name before.
Yeah, it wasn't the name I recognized.
But he's the guy, I think, that originally pitched this and was rejected. And then, and then finally was able to get it rolling when Sam Hamm came on board. But anyway, what I was going to say is, I think he got sick and it got delayed. Maybe it was because of COVID, because this starts in 21, and so obviously COVID was still pretty rampant. I don't remember. It's been a while since I looked into this. I don't remember if it was COVID or something else, but I'm pretty sure he got sick and it got delayed. I don't know if it's over anything like the same thing, but the same thing has happened now with the new one. It's stuck on issue 4. 5's not going to come out until like February. Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, the Echoes book. So we do have a sequel to this now, but it's not out yet. I mean, it's not finished yet. The first 4 issues are out, and I bought some of it, but I haven't been reading it as it comes out. I was going to wait till it was finished.
That's like me with Riddler Year One, where because that's a Black Label book, and like every Black Label book I'd read up to that point was 3 issues. So I got 3 issues because that's all that was out, and went, "Oh, this is done." Get to the end, it's like, "Oh, there's no ending," and then like I have to catch up again. I got to read the last 3.
But it actually finished, right?
That actually did finish, yeah. So that's more on me than them being delayed. But it was more like hell yeah, I'm gonna read this. Oh, it's.
I'm so bad about not keeping up anymore. I forgot that was even a thing. Was it any good? What you read of it?
Oh, it's really good. I should bring that on at some point.
You should. That'd be great. That's part of the reason I want to do this too, is so that we can feed each other stuff that we haven't looked at. I'm really excited about your next pick.
Yeah, I'm really excited about my next pick.
I guess you can announce it at the end. Austin, in fact, I'm so excited about that. I'm going to be cryptic for a minute because of a movie that I loved earlier in the year that I actually almost picked it today, and I went, I know Austin's going to bring that up, so I'll skip it. But that's how excited I am about that pick.
And for those waiting for Doctor Strange, that'll be my next one. I had to put it on hold, but we'll get back.
Depending on how the schedule works out, it could be like March or April, but we will get there. Anyway, Batman 89, which is a somewhat confusing title because the story does not take place in 89. It's 89 because that's the year that movie comes out, but this would have to take place somewhere in the mid-90s. I guess I'm going to find myself into criticism territory immediately. I want this material to be timeless enough that timeless feeling enough that I can't peg a particular time period. It's not really like that the way that first movie was. It's a little bit more like Returns, but I think even beyond Returns, it feels a lot more like a 90s thing than Batman 89 feels like an 80s thing.
Yeah, I mean, you and I disagree about 89 because I think that movie's really dated, but I definitely I kind of like was jumping back and forth where there's parts of this that I'm like, okay, like it's like the 90s, but then it kind of feels like it was made now. I'm like, I couldn't really like pin that nail.
Yeah, well, and we'll talk about all of that because I'm with you. The writing and even the artwork to some degree, I think, feel too modern, but just where it's set. I mean, first of all, the guys that worked on it have come out and said, like Sam Hamm, it's somewhere in the mid '90s. So immediately talking about it like that bothers me because '89 in my brain is not set any particular year, and you still have the kind of blend of fashions and things. Like the look of it is more or less kind of like 89, but where I'm talking more technology than anything. Like 89 does things like the silly CD that they scratch in the car and that kind of thing that makes it feel a little bit more 90s. I mean, I guess you've got like a boombox with Lawrence and stuff in 89, and obviously that soundtrack is 80s, but nobody in the universe seems to react to it. You know, it's just kind of there for the audience more than anything. So I don't know, and maybe it's just like stuff I grew up with, and I think about it more the way I did when I was a kid, I guess. But I don't know. Returns always felt like I don't mean just the way it's made, but like the technology and the way people are doing things. It feels more rooted in that time period.
Yeah, fair enough. This one's got some like way more advanced technology that's right out of now.
Yeah, no, well that's true too, like with the holograms and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But I think right out the gate, I should just say
Yeah,
I think I probably enjoyed this more than you do.
yeah,
But I'm also not as big of an 89 person as you, so like there's also that.
sure. Well, if we want to put cards on the table right away, this is okay. Like I was, and you know, you get your hopes up for things. Like this was a thing that I was so bummed didn't come out when it was originally pitched, and didn't know if we'd ever see it. Also hard not to compare it to other things of its like that I have really enjoyed and appreciated, like Batman '66, like Wonder Woman '77 to a lesser degree, and then like a lot of the '66 crossovers were really good. Like the bar was set pretty high for this kind of thing. Then over at Marvel, their animated X-Men stuff was pretty decent when they did X-Men '93, 92, and then '93. There were a couple of different series, and so there was a lot of precedent for this beforehand. Also, Superman '78 came out simultaneous with this, and I like
Same with their sequels.
And at the same time, and I like this I liked that quite a bit more than this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I've read it, and like this kind of thing, again, kind of cards on the table. It's like I can read it and enjoy it, but it doesn't tend to stick with me.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're kind of going in like, oh, here's a comic addition to like a movie or a show or something, and it's just kind of like in one ear and out the other, where it can be like, oh, like that was fun, or it wasn't great, or whatever. But I remember liking Superman '78. I don't know where it would rank compared to this. I do remember that has some weird things,
Yeah.
like what it does with Jor-El and stuff. But outside of that, I remember thinking it did a good job kind of nailing the voices for the characters.
Yeah, it did. It feels a little bit more comic booky than that world did, but I also don't know what else you do with it, where it's like, do you want it to not do any comic book things? Like, as soon as you start dealing with Brainiac and stuff, I go, well, now it just feels like a comic book. And you have, I guess, the same issue with this here and there, but almost the opposite of that, where I'm like, well, this feels like change just for the sake of change, and then I go, well, yeah, but those movies did that.
Yeah, and that's actually something I liked about this. I thought that quite a bit of that worked. There's things about it, like the Robin name thing, I don't think works at
Is
all.
obnoxious, yeah.
But I actually really liked his take on Robin for this world.
Yeah, I think it's all right, and
yeah, and I liked their Two-Face. There's things in it where I'm like the Robin name thing, like I said. But outside of that, I like quite a bit of the change.
I like a lot of surface stuff with this more than I like it overall. That I like character and thematic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself, and yeah, I'm probably a little bit more critical of this because this is not what I want, and it's very difficult to articulate what it is that I want. It also doesn't help that I'm in the middle of Batman Resurrection right now, which is a lot closer to what I want for an 89 sequel. It doesn't help, like, Sam Hamm is kind of like digging himself into a hole here for me because the whole thing ends up being sort of awkward from where I'm coming from because I don't love Returns and he's stuck with Returns, and that movie is not what he wrote and what he wanted, and 89 as it is not what he originally wrote and what he wanted. So what I want from this is a Sam Hamm sequel to a thing that wasn't made, which nobody would buy. It wouldn't make any sense. It's not what you'd want. So what I sort of wish, retroactively now, I didn't think of this until after I read this finally, Austin. What I guess I wished we'd done instead is brought Sam Hamm back to adapt his first draft script into a comic book. And then maybe go from there. Then maybe make sequels to that. He feels a little bit frustrated to me on the page in having to deal with material that is beyond his control. And I appreciate his attempt at making this as authentic as he can. In a really weird way, I feel like he's honestly not the guy for this project. And I was so excited when he came on because it's like, oh great, Sam Hamm, like there's your credibility. The guy that wrote the original. I love his original first draft script. I don't like his return script. Yeah. And this gets to some of the things that I didn't like in the return script. I feel like some of the social commentary stuff is a little on the nose, a little obvious, and that was some of the issue that I had with the return script. I kind of wish he was having a little bit more fun with it. Personally, I think it gets more fun as it goes along. And that's what was odd about this experience for me, Austin, is first issue's okay, and then after that I feel like it starts to stray away from feeling like an 89 thing. And then once I get to the last couple issues, it wends its way back around and he starts getting weird. And once it gets weird, it's a lot better. I turn around and get really straight. So once it gets more action heavy, I'm like, so that's why I say surface. Like, I like this much more on a superficial level once it starts getting goofy.
That's so interesting. Because I had like the opposite with Sam Hamm, where I came in and I was like, oh, he's taking this material and going, I'm not going to make it like that. I'm going to make it the way that I do this. And it reminded me of, it's like, okay, with 89 he had like, I'm going to tackle like commercialism, and it's like he brings in like, this is the idea that I'm working on, I'm going to tackle it about this, all the characters are going to weave their way in and out of this idea, and it's going to work that way instead of like how Burton did it. So I had much more of like he came in and just made a Sam Hamm thing. And I think part of it is, with the exception of Catwoman, I feel like he kind of just ignores Returns for the most part. Catwoman's like the big awkward thing.
Yeah,
where, like
it is really awkward. Well, but I don't think
Catwoman's also weird, like just straight up in design, because it's like half that movie,
half animated series.
Yeah, half like a comic book suit. It's really weird.
I hear where you're coming from, but I don't think he ignored it enough. And not just for my own taste. Like, there are choices he makes with Batman's character that I feel like are him trying to be fair and faithful and authentic to what Burton might have done. It's almost like he's attempting to like rewrite himself.
Yeah, well, I think it's hard maybe for me to see the line where it's like,
sure.
So much of how I see Batman is kind of the same in both movies, where like he kind of just walks around being crazy. So I'm like,
no, that's true, but he's not like that as much. But he's a lot more traditional comic book in the first draft. So it's not just a matter of returns, it's also a matter of the 89 that we got, right? Like,
yeah, well, that's just what I mean is there's things that you're saying like, oh, like he's stuck with returns where I'm maybe not seeing.
But he's also stuck with Burton, and that's the thing is, it's not just about returns. I feel like he's trying to figure out that middle ground to do what he would want to do with this character, but if Burton was the guy that made it.
That's
and I kind of wish he wasn't doing that. But then, I'm saying that, if we'd gotten that project, then I might have found myself reading that and going, okay, well now it's just a regular Batman comic.
Batman comic, yeah.
Because his original draft is kind of just a Batman comic. Like, if you, and I said this when I reviewed it, but if you go back and look at that, and then you read comics from like the mid '80s, kind of just like his Joker just reads like mid '80s Joker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was something I thought was interesting because you have that obviously with Joker, and then his Penguin is really weird in his Batman 2 script.
Oh, that's true.
And then this felt like he went back and said, okay.
Boniface? Whatever that was.
Boniface. Yeah, he gets a guy killed by birds at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
This it felt like he went, okay, Billy D. Williams' Two-Face. Like, that is what it is. What is the take around that? Like, sure. I have Billy D. Williams. So it felt like he built what his Two-Face would be, and a lot of the themes in this book, because they had a black Harvey Dent. Right. And I thought a lot of that was interesting. And I was kind of like jumping back and forth.
I had too many preconceived notions about that.
Yeah.
Like, I always imagined a sequel where he becomes Harvey Dent would be completely colorblind and we would never deal with race at all.
No, and that's exactly what I was going to say is I was jumping back and forth in this book where I'm like, okay.
And so I'm trying to be open to it. I'm not saying it's bad because it goes to a racial place.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
It's not what I ever imagined with this, and it was kind of hard to get comfortable with it. I don't know.
I think the part of it is I feel like this is that first script where this would be handed to Burden and Burden would rip most of that out.
Yeah, right.
And that's what the
right because the first movie is about materialism and then most of that is gone.
Exactly. Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that with the first movie script where it's like okay, here is like the big social issue we're going to tackle.
Yeah, his second movie is all about greed, and I mean I guess like there's still that commercial aspect of it because of Christmas, but it's like, you know, greed versus giving, I guess, and then it ends up being a really typical you know, take care of your neighbor, it's Christmas time kind of message.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this, I guess, is it's easy for like people with money to miss what's happening with people without, and vice versa. Like, I guess that's kind of the main theme of this. I liked the idea of in doing yet another Two-Face origin. We should do like a ranked list of Two-Face origins. We've had to review so many of these things at this point. I think that was part of, and this is not fair to Sam Hamm or anybody, I'm so sick of Two-Face origins.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, obviously you want to do that with this. You know, you want to see what Billy D. Williams' Two-Face would be like. I wish it had been like 5 years since I'd read or watched a Two-Face origin. Because I feel like in the last year we've probably reviewed 3 Two-Face origins.
I think what helped for me is we tend to like make Two-Face way more boring at this point where it's just, oh, he gets scarred and then he goes on like a killing rampage. This Two-Face is crazy with a capital C.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, they did everything I wanted. He's got the double personality. He's got like a fixation.
I thought you'd like him more than I did. I found him. We'll get to it. I found him so convoluted. He's like 15 different things.
No,
it's
he absolutely
ridiculous.
is. He's just insane.
He's just insane.
And I kind of loved it for that.
I don't full on understand him, and maybe I'm okay with that because I imagine an '89 type Batman movie would be like that.
Yeah, once he's like living in alternate realities and stuff, I'm like, I'm game. I love this.
It was kind of just too many things stacked on top of themselves. But anyway, the idea of like Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne representing the two sides of Gotham, and And I guess Harvey Dent himself, once he becomes Two-Face, the idea is he's like the perversion of that, and he's both at the same time. And he's also like he's also ambition versus compassion, and it is kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, it is kind of interesting doing that with 89 because Burton always had the Batman that's walled off from everybody. And so there's that question of, like, has he completely lost his humanity? Like, is he insane? And Two-Face has always represented the kind of perverse duality of Batman. So, like, that works really well. But what I was going to say is, you also got to have it with Robin, too, where, like, Robin is supposed to be the vigilante that represents the other side of Gotham that nobody talks about because we're always following, the rich elite in this universe. And so doing that with Two-Face, where he's split down the middle, and you have two Gothams is interesting. Dealing with the racial component of that while you're also talking about it in terms of black and white is a little on the nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that, but
yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. And there's like 3 Robin Hoods in this in this book.
Yeah, and sometimes when it comes up, I feel like he's forgotten he's done it already. I don't even know if that's intentional.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just all doing it, and I feel like with Robin specifically, it's like, okay, we get it. He's Robin Hood, and then they drop the Robin thing. He's Robin. It's like, oh, why did you do that?
I rolled my eyes really hard. And then at the end, he won't commit to the name, and he makes up some other stupid name, the Avenging Eagle or whatever.
Avenging Eagle, yeah.
And I'm like, this is as bad as movies have ever handled this.
That was straight up, I like your real name, Robin material.
Yeah.
I could hear, like, at the end of the Nolan movies, where, like, the music's ramping is like you're cutting to, like, all the different endings. I could hear that playing. It, like, tuned out the Burden music in my head.
Let me read this super chat from Chewbacca's Lover real quick before we get too far away from it, and then we can do a real quick synopsis, I guess. Chewbacca's Lover, $5 super chat. Fun fact, the grappling gun is from 89, not in the comics before that movie. He swung on a rope, but the grappling gun comes from 89, and the comics carry it over. I guess I never put that together, if that's true, that we'd never had a grappler before 89. Is that actually?
I think that's true.
Is that actually true? Interesting.
That's kind of like how it is with the cape, like gliding around with the cape. I think it's Arkham that like really popularizes that.
Yeah, I mean, other things had done a glider, like even Returns does a glider.
But it's like an extension thing. It's not like him flying around with his cape. Like it's like a little different, because before he like has like a glider that he glides around in. But I think that is right. I think.
Well, you're right. Arkham popularizes it, but I mean, even Begins did it before that, because like it has a.
Maybe it's Begins.
Begins has a rigid cape, and
I think it's Begins.
And he hovers, or not hovers, but he glides like that in the third act, if you'll recall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I had my wires crossed. I think it is Begins that is the first one. You're right. Anyways, now that I look like a fool.
See, it's because we've reviewed so many Batman things recently that they all go together. You can't even remember what happens where. When we get to the end of this, you're gonna start conflating like 5 different Two-Faces. I guarantee it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I know with the comics, for the longest time, it's just he has like a rope on a batarang that he throws around, and he swings off that.
Even 66 does that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's correct.
Yeah, real quick before we get to a synopsis, one of my issues with this, just on a writing level, just on a medium level, I guess I should say, is it does read very clearly like a guy that's not used to working in this medium. And it reads a little clunky to me, like a guy trying to figure out how to take what he's used to doing with screenplays and make it a 6-issue comic book or a comic series. He doesn't do that super well, and there are places where I don't know if I should blame the writer or the artist, but there are places where Austin, I can't always tell what's happening in panels.
No, I had a bit of the same thing. And I wondered because some writers will do it in like the form of like a movie script, so and I kind of wondered if he maybe did it that way, or if it was like, in this panel it's this, and this panel it's that. I would be interested to see what the script for this looks like.
I bet it's not laid out for panels.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a perfectly valid way to accomplish that, but in places I feel like it's probably wordier than it needs to be, and than it would be under an experienced comic writer. He's a little bit redundant sometimes with dialogue, where he seems to overcompensate, where he's afraid that you'll forget like an important phrase, and so he keeps bringing it back. And so in certain ways, it's weird, right? Because it does read too modern, and then in certain ways, it also reads like a guy that hasn't read anything past like the early 90s, late 80s.
Mm-hmm. No, very true. And I was thinking about this actually, and then Dan Schneider confirmed it in the chat. Sam Hamm has written comics before, which is interesting.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I didn't have it like a ton, but I did have that thought a few times where I was like, he's a little new to the medium. But I don't know if that's maybe just an artist thing, where it's like maybe they're not fully gelling all the time.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm not sure who to blame for it. What do you think of the look of this? Because that was part of my disappointment a little bit. There are places where I really like what it looks like. Overall, I think it's a little too cartoony. Like I wish it was
the exact same thing.
Okay, I wish it was more stylized and a little bit more pencily and a little bit more about the shadow work and stuff.
And to be fair to them, the cover artwork, I don't know if you could make that a full comic and come out monthly.
It'd be a lot more delayed even than this was.
It'd be a lot more delayed, but because I'd never seen the art of the actual book, and that's all I'd seen, I was like, oh, this is a lot more cartoony than I expected. But I also think it works in places. It's just, it was a little bit of an adjustment.
Oh, I didn't know this. Dan's Den, he retracted the message, but he brought it back. But he said that Sam Hamm wrote the original story with Ducard. I didn't know that.
That's right. I did know that.
And Bob the Hun said he wrote an arc, at least one arc in Legends of the Dark Knight, which might have been that, or it might have been something else. I'm not sure. Maybe I had seen his name before and just forgot about it.
Yeah, no, the second you said that, I think I messaged you actually when I learned that, where I was like, did you know this? This is insane. But I think it's like a few years ago. It like just pulled that out of my brain.
Well, and he wouldn't be the only primarily script writer that has written for Batman. I don't remember this, but Bob Gale's done some Batman.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
He did some No Man's Land, which is pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
And it's good.
I don't know if you had this, but I remember, because it's been a while since I've looked at his
Look at that! Look at that Bruce Wayne face.
Bruce Wayne looks a little strange. There's parts where I'm like, oh, that's Keaton, and other parts where I'm like, I don't know.
He never looks like Keaton to me, but he has the eyebrows. It's like the only thing we care about is the eyebrows.
He's got Reed Richards hair too.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure why we went that far. It's like, it's only probably 4 or 5 years after Returns. Why is he aging so quickly?
Because he's crazy. he goes out at night and just crazy things.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I felt like certain characters looked more like their real-life likenesses than others, and I also wondered if maybe this is one of those situations where you didn't have the rights to particular actors' likenesses. So
I had that with Pfeiffer.
You had that with who?
Pfeiffer. Where I'm like that.
Oh, see, she looked closer to the real life person, I thought, than most characters in this.
Fascinating. I was like, that is a blonde woman in glasses.
Nope,
there are. Pfeiffer.
So when she's in the Catwoman costume, especially, she looks like Pfeiffer.
She looks like Pfeiffer when she has the mask on. It's entirely when you see her without the mask.
There's even places without the mask though. Like when she,
fair enough.
When she has, I'm just gonna fight you on everything. When she,
go for it.
When she's the secretary and she has those goofy pink glasses, she doesn't look at all like Pfeiffer. But then when she is sitting at her desk with the big reveal at the end when she's sending a message to Barbara Gordon, like that's got the pursed lips, like that like classic Pfeiffer look.
Isn't that where she's doing like? she's like in the secretary outfit and the Catwoman mask.
Yeah, well, she's not wearing the mask though. It's off.
Okay, I'm thinking of a different scene. There is a scene where she's like got the secretary look and the mask on. I couldn't remember if that was it.
We did this thing here that you always have to do with Harvey Dent before he becomes Two-Face, where we foreshadow it by having a shadow down his face. But we went even further than I've seen it before, where he's also got one eye bigger and part of his mouth is open, the other.
I'm having breakfast for you.
Bob the Hunt $2 super chat. Why is Batman's eyes all white? That's a weird choice. I guess.
Yes, that was a big thing immediately where I was like, oh, that's weird. But we moved it to a comic, and then later on, he's talking to someone, and it's like schnicked, and his like lenses go down, and I was like,
yeah, he's got lenses.
It's like a little. He has lenses.
It's not even a stylized comic choice.
No,
he just has lenses. Yeah, I don't like it.
I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought that was a strange choice.
It feels really overthought, and maybe I'm the one overthinking it. But you know what it reads like? It reads like he's got lenses now because he's too lazy to paint around his eyes black. Because when even though you never get the sense that the actual man is painting his eyes. That's just what you have to do in the movie to make it look right. But when he takes those lenses down, there's no eyeshadow around the eyes.
Well, you know what I want it to be?
That's my headcanon for it, Austin.
I want there to be a scene where there's a panel and it's like a boom. You have the lenses, and then you go to the next panel and he's starting to pull the mask off and there's no lenses.
That'd be great.
And it's like just a stylized thing.
It is weird when your movies are more stylized than your comics, where you can make things like impossible and nobody minds because it looks cool.
Yeah, because it's not like we haven't had Batman without that in comics at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a strange choice.
Dan Schneider's $2 super chat. Does this comic touch Batman being a murderer? Kind of.
Yeah, I'm gonna say mostly not, but like a little.
It deals with his recklessness more than it deals with the fact that he actually murders people. It feels like kind of a middle of the road way to go, so that he's not completely unsympathetic. And that's a good segue into a synopsis. I will say,
we've been talking like half an hour.
Yeah, it's all right.
Synopsis.
I will say, when you get to the end of the book. I guess we'll get there and talk about this, but when you get to the end of the book, I'm not really sure why Bruce Wayne keeps being Batman, except he's just crazy and he likes his toys.
Well, doesn't somebody say, have you ever tried being normal? And he's like, sometimes, but it doesn't work out.
Well, he's got this big grin on his face where he's like...
Which is the shot he most looks like Keaton, I thought. But yeah.
Yeah, I did not have that. I thought that was just a goofy face.
I mean, exactly.
Alfred is one of the characters that most felt like, oh, you guys just did not have the rights to do a Michael Goff likeness. So, like...
He's like 66, Alfred. He's got the mustache.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like... I think it's kind of more or less the same shape. Like, it feels sort of based on that, but... They're definitely not going for anything, photorealistic. But anyway, Austin, give us a brief synopsis with what happens with this, so that we can talk a little bit more detailed.
So this book opens with a big bank robbery. Actually, no, it's not a bank. It's like an insurance building. And they rob 2 trucks, and it's got $31 million in it, and Batman stops it. And then it becomes about urban upheaval, and Harvey Dent's going to run against taking down Batman because the city's relied on him too long, and they got to fix things for themselves. And obviously he becomes Two-Face. You also have Robin, who is Drake Winston, and he is a young kid who lives at the top of like a mechanic shop. He actually reminded me, I don't know if you had this, of the Aronofsky Batman Year One movie that we almost had, where I think Batman, like Bruce, like lived in the streets, and Alfred was like a mechanic.
Oh, crazy!
Yeah, So you have that, and then Catwoman's just kind of here because returns happened.
Yeah.
She's trying to get to the bottom of this $31 million thing. So it turns out there's a big conspiracy around it because the robbery was orchestrated by the insurance company because it had a bunch of legal documents they wanted to get rid of. But then Batman stopped it, so it became like a whole thing. And then once
a bunch of documents that if you had them, you could blackmail a bunch of very important people, and you basically would have the key to the city, which is Two-Face's grand scheme by the end.
Yeah, exactly. And Two-Face is also doing a Robin Hood thing where he's like giving people money from that. And he was from this poor neighborhood that they're now having issues with, and he's like trying to give the money back to them, but he's also like completely insane and believes in the multiverse. And
and the whole question with Harvey Dent before that is he just after himself? Is he just about ambition, or does he still care about the people from the lowlier place that he originally came from?
Is he the person that grew up here, or is he just like a politician saying things to, you know, get far in his career and he doesn't actually care?
And I guess the parallel with Batman is does Batman care about the people on the streets, or does he just want to play dress up every night because he's upset that his parents got killed? Like that.
Or does he just want to
that's
light
the parallel.
On fire and smile while he does it?
Yeah, that too.
Also, when he does that creepy smile, he might reference All-Star Batman and Robin, where he's joking with Robin and he's going to tie him up in the Batcave. And,
I didn't even think about All-Star with that. That's funny.
Well, it's because he's like, I'm going to tie you up here for 20 years.
For 20 years.
But don't worry, you'll be fed well. And I was like, is that like kind of a joke about the All-Star thing where he makes him eat rats in the Batcave? Because Sam Hamm loves Frank Miller, like, unconditionally, so it might be.
Yeah, that might have been a loving tribute or making fun of it. You decide. It's both.
Yeah, if anything, I feel like it might be a joke about that if you're in the know.
So, real quick, now that we're at the Catwoman costume, let me just say, like, you may not agree with this. I don't mind the circles, like, from the 89 suit, or sorry, from the animated series suit. Like, if you just took the exact Pfeiffer suit and threw those on there, I think it looks cool. What's weird about it is the legs. Like, if you just got it from the waist up, it's cool, but then you see it from the waist down and you go, it's two different suits stacked on top of themselves. No,
she's as much Two-Face as Harvey is. She's just split down the middle that way.
But that's hilarious. She's split vertically, yeah. like a model that's sawed in half for a magician act.
Yeah, exactly. Harvey's horizontal, Selina's vertical. That's their parallel.
I don't know why she changed her suit. Like, Batman didn't change. He's got basically he did a little bit. He's got basically the return suit, except he's got purple inside of the cape, which is an odd choice for 89, but I'm never going to complain about a purple inlay, Batman cape. That always looks good.
Yeah, I thought it was strange at first, but it eventually kind of grew on me. I was like, that's pretty cool. I imagine with Catwoman, it's because her suit's, like, shredded to pieces by the end of that movie.
That's a good call. But then she still stitched another one together.
She only had enough leather to stitch the top part, though, and even the gloves are different on it.
Yeah, it's weird. But she still does her claws the same way.
Yeah, she still has the same claws.
But anyway, I'm sorry. This cover is super cool.
I did really like that scene though, where they meet on top of that rooftop, and she's like, "This is the spot," and Batman's like, "Yep, this is the spot where you stabbed me," and she goes, "Yeah, this is the spot where you threw acid at me."
Yeah, some of those callbacks were kind of nice. Do you like that Batman still has the cat from the end of that movie?
I did, yeah. I thought that was a little creepy in places, but it was kind of sweet, yeah.
Something we would be remiss in, it's odd that we haven't brought this up already, that I have immense respect for Sam Hamm with this, that I imagine is a thing you probably appreciated, Austin. He doesn't do the memberberry thing at all. Like,
no, there's like no line callbacks. that scene that I just mentioned, where Selena's like, "Hey, remember you threw acid at me?" That's one of the only callbacks.
Well, and that's and like even that is just referencing a thing that happened, and it doesn't feel like forced fan service or anything necessarily.
No, it's just two characters reminiscing after seeing each other again.
This new book, Batman Resurrection, does it constantly, and
Oh no.
it's the kind of thing that should irritate me, but I'm finding myself, because it reads, and I'll review this when I finish it finally. I just haven't had a lot of time to read lately. It reads so authentic in the flavor of it, in the atmosphere of it, that I'm finding myself going, like putting myself in John Jackson Miller's place and going, if I'm writing this book, I don't know that I would be able to help myself either. You know what I mean? Like in prose, I'm not minding it the way I might in a comic. So I keep feeling I should dog it for that. But then reading this this comic series, I'm kind of appreciating that Hamm never feels the need to do that.
No, the most you'll get out of stuff like that is just if you really know your Sam Hamm 89 lore, and you just know like the certain things that he keeps trying to get in these scripts that don't make it in and like finally get to be here.
Yeah, but it's weird there's no Horus. Like
It is weird there's no
He's
Horus.
got the opportunity to finally do the Horus. There's no Horus.
It better be an Echoes. But like I remember when this was announced, I was like, okay, the two big things that will be here are Sons of Batman and Robin saving Batman at the beginning of the third act, and yep, they're both here.
They're both there, yeah. Well, and when you were talking about things this Robin was reminding you of, all I could think about was the original Robin pitch. I mean, it is essentially what they had talked about doing in '89 if he had been in that movie.
Oh, cool. I didn't really know enough about that. I knew obviously that Robin was going to be black, and that's the thing that carries over here, but I didn't know anything about the take.
Yeah, he was always a black street kid.
Okay.
He always came off the street and helped Batman in the middle of like some kind of catastrophe, like looting or something. And he was supposed to be played by Marlon Wayans.
Yeah, I knew that part. That's interesting that they went to such a Jason Todd origin, even all the way back then. But I actually, now that I say that, Jason Todd is the current Robin when they're making that movie, so maybe that is part of it. But they're like, this is like the more serious Batman. This is like the serious Robin origin. It's not that silly circus thing. This is like the cool.
That's right.
Dark Robin origin.
Well, and by the time you get to Returns, because they almost shoved him into that movie, and in fact they got closer in getting him there. I've talked about this before. They got closer in getting him there because they even made an action figure, like it was supposed to happen. But I want to say there was maybe talk that some part of the Tim Drake name was going to be used then, but I may be wrong about that. I can't remember. But naming him Drake in this, I don't know if that's like a new arbitrary choice or if that's something that actually goes back that far. It might.
Yeah, it might do. The name thing is the part of this that most reminded me of the Mr. Boniface thing, where it's like, where did this name come from? But I also didn't really care. Like when it came up, I was like, is that weird? Do I like that? And then as it went on, I was like, I don't really care enough. Their Robin's so much of a reinvention anyways.
I think it's just annoying that he can't just be called Robin. Like, he's got...
That part I agree with.
That's so irritating, and
I just meant for like his real name.
It's like, no, I know. It's like Sam Hamm missed the memo that all of us movie fans are sick to death of that trope. Like, we're all done with it. I don't know one person that ever finds that clever anymore. It's like, no, just let him have his damn name from the beginning, okay? Like, he's... And this makes it so convoluted that Robin comes from, like, 9 different places, and then he never even calls himself that at the end. He's got an R on his costume because that's the first letter of the place he works at. And he has birds, and one of them is a robin. And then there are people that say, oh, he's robbing the place, which is the most face palm-inducing thing I've read in a long time. And he never puts all of this together and just goes, fine, my name is Robin now. Like, stop it. And I don't need an origin for any of it, or at least that much of an origin. Like, it's good enough to just go, and I don't need a cutesy origin ever, Austin, but, like, obviously, even Batman's bats come from a place. He has a cave under his manor. If you go to the traditional Batman origin, there's a bat that flies into the window. Like, there is an origin for why he's Batman. Okay, we'll just parallel it with Bruce Wayne then, and go, and this is also kind of a cool mirror thing, where Batman's got bats under his house, Robin's got birds above his house, because he's on a roof. That's cool.
Catwoman never tries to eat them. That's a missed opportunity.
That's a good point. Well, and did you have this thought? It's kind of interesting that Robin, that Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face because he tries to save the kid that will become Robin out of a burning building. Mm-hmm. And Two-Face is the guy that murders Robin's parents in Forever and who he spends the whole movie trying to kill.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought about that too.
It's like the exact opposite.
I also thought it was neat that you had like kind of a trio with Batman, Robin, and Catwoman, when of course you have Batman, the Penguin, and Catwoman. Like, you replaced the bird character with another bird character.
Oh, not yeah, that, like, that's true.
He's like a villain, but like we kind of make a trio out of those three.
Yeah, we're still doing that animal thing.
Mm-hmm. Except for Two-Face, he's just.
And then we don't have that with Two-Face at all. Yeah.
He's living his best life in the multiverse.
It gets muddled at some point. But I think there's a lot of sloppy stuff with this book.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I liked Robin's design, though. I thought it was pretty neat. I'm pretty critical, I find, of when we try to make Robin look badass, where it's like he can't just look like Robin. We got to make it cool looking. But I actually thought his design was pretty neat. More so when he's like just like a black cloak guy with like hints of yellow than when we do like the more armory like red and green suit. But
yeah, I like it better earlier. I don't need the Mortal Kombat mask.
Oh, see, I kind of liked that.
Oh, okay.
But fair enough.
Austin, I just don't agree on anything. I have been ruined by Arrowverse with hoods.
Oh, shit.
I have a hard time not immediately having a knee-jerk reaction anytime we reinvent a superhero costume with a hood now. And that's not fair. Like, it does look fine, but I did immediately have that knee-jerk where I was like, Arrowverse! Like, CW does hoods, you can't have hoods anymore.
I guess we've just had so many Robins with hoods. I'm so used to just, you want to make Robin
I guess that's
cool?
fair.
Slap a hood on him. That's
also,
all you gotta do.
No, I will concede that point, because... Especially because Tim Drake specifically is the Robin that tends to have a hood a lot. Well, I guess we do it with Damian too, but...
Yeah, we do it with a little bit of both of them, but like that's how Arkham does it. They're like, look at our cool badass Robin. He's got a
hood, yeah. Let me read these other super chats real quick. Bob, $100 super chat. How long until we get this for Raimi Spider-Man?
I don't know. I feel like Marvel at this point is less interested in doing this kind of a thing.
No, they're more interested in doing it in movies, which is why it probably won't happen in comics.
Yeah, no kidding.
Dan Snyder, $2 super chat. I also heard Edward Furlong was almost Robin. Yeah, I've heard that too.
Interesting.
Somebody asked a minute ago, sorry I don't have the name right off, if this and the new book take place in the same continuity. Yeah, FG asked that. No, they are very clearly separate things. There are a couple of things in this that pretty well contradict stuff from this book, particularly the way the Joker gang is handled.
Okay.
Because, now, you could pretty easily finagle it if you wanted to retroactively say that they connect up. I don't know what Echoes does. Like, I don't know if there's anything that directly contradicts this with that. I also don't know how far forward Miller, John Jackson Miller, is going with his books, because this is not going to be the only one. He's doing, I think, 3. And this takes place between 89 and Returns, and Returns is definitely canonical with it. They're not paving over Returns because it's setting up some stuff that happens in Returns, and I really love. Now I'm just reviewing this book, but I really love like tone wise, like atmospherically, how good of a bridger it is between them. It makes Returns sort of feel like a third movie, which is cool, because I don't love that movie. I think it goes a little too far off the rails, and it absolutely feels like what a crazy third movie would do. So I like that I've got this now, but I don't know if that next book will go after it, because if it does, it will probably very quickly start contradicting things that happen with this, and I don't know if he's going to do his own version of Two-Face that's different from this. But anyway, the way he handles the Joker gang is he says that there are characters that were in Joker's gang that have gotten out of prison or never went there, and they've kind of kept the thing going. And in in these comics, we're told that everybody's either in prison or dead, but it is possible that some of them were around for a while and then later got thrown into prison. So like you could maybe finagle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this is several years later.
But so
it's
far,
not like they give like a timestamp of like, well, this is when they died.
The big thing I can't tell with this book is if he's building up things for Forever and for Robin also, and if those are going to be in this continuity. Because he's got references, he's got allusions to them, and they might just be kind of cute, like references, and we'll eventually pave over them. This book definitely paves over that stuff, obviously, because you have a totally different Harvey Dent. And spoiler alert, Two-Face dies at the end, and he's not dead forever, so it can't be canonical with that.
Though to be fair, Forever had a very different Harvey Dent.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Speaking of really bad third movies, though, this I was being reminded quite a bit of Dark Knight Rises and how it was handling some of the class stuff a little bit better than that does. Where like that feels like it's very surface level, where here I'm like, okay, it's maybe not super deep, but we're at least talking about it. There's also I don't know if you remember this, but I remember in your review of the 89 script, you said there's like hints of what would become the Dark Knight in that script, and I had this with the Batman, which is weird because they're like not far apart. But like the whole thing where you have like everybody's kind of fighting around this like mishandled funds, because it's like you have the 31 million, and what they're doing is they're gonna have it robbed so that it gets like insured out and it gets paid out to all the people at the top and doesn't actually go to where it's supposed to go. And I was like, oh, that's basically what's happening in the Batman, not to the same degree, because there isn't like a whole robbing plot, but you have that, like, we have this money that goes to the city and it's all going to go to the rich people instead. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, especially because they're pretty close to each other.
No, that's a good point, and it also is like that movie thematically, because with Robin, you have a character telling him that he needs to become a positive symbol and not just be about scaring the criminals.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool because that's just classic Robin. Like, it's doing it with this material, but it's that Robin's coming in and being like, hey, you're like a crazy person. Maybe you should be more like of the people. Like, it's that classic Robin takes him from, you know, like the Dark Knight to like a Caped Crusader kind of place.
Yeah, well, and part of the reason, and I also really like that in basing him more or less off of Tim Drake, because he feels really Tim Drake to me, but he's like a really smart, like gender flipped version of that, or not gender, sorry, race flipped version of that, because we actually do something with that and with where he comes from. And like I said, I resisted that initially because it's not really what I want from this material, at least on the Harvey Dent side. But that would have always been baked into it if they'd done a Black Robin, I think. So I guess I don't resist it as much there, just because I don't know what else you would have done with it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I really liked kind of what he does with the race stuff. Like I like that you have like a Harvey Dent where it's like this is where he came from, and this is what he kind of molded himself into. Where it's like it's because we often do the Two-Face like parallel thing with Harvey Dent before that, but I liked that it was kind of a way I've never really seen it done before, where it's like the even the Harvey Dent that we see normally is a face he's putting on, maybe, or maybe
Yeah.
it's like that original face wasn't entirely real.
Well, I like how conflicted he is with that.
Mhm.
There are places where I feel like Sam Hamm is struggling to communicate what he thinks his Two-Face is.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, there's interesting reads that you can have, but, like, whenever different characters are talking about him, I can't decide if they're a mouthpiece at all for the author telling us what this character is, or if it's just their point of view. And obviously, it's fine if it is just their point of view. I can't always tell. Like, there's a place where Bruce Wayne has a speech toward the end about how I think it's Bruce about how or is it Gordon maybe about how Harvey Dent was always just an opportunist and he never really cared about his constituents. But sometimes I feel like this character is conflicted, and he's Two-Face before he's Two-Face, where there's he's got multiple sides, and one side has that compassion, remembers where he comes from, the other side doesn't. And sometimes I feel like the point is that he threw that away, and he when he becomes Two-Face, it's not him being like perverted, but it's who he always was coming out. Because there are characters that talk about it that way also. It's like which is it?
I think it is that perspective thing, and I actually, because I see what you mean, but I kind of liked that it is more left up to interpretation on that. But I think it was like that Dark Knight Returns, like you have mouthpieces of each side, kind of saying like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and then it kind of leaves you to decide what you think it is. But once he becomes Two-Face, his motivations are like out the window. He's completely insane.
He's just completely insane.
Just completely insane.
I can't even tell when the two sides are talking to each other always which one is the good face and which one is the bad face.
I had that a few times because it's like the panels for the evil one are like a little scratchier, but sometimes it was a little subtle where I had to read it over a second time, and I was like, oh, okay, no, wait, that was the...
Well, that's not what I mean. So you have this crazy fake out when he first gets burned, where he wakes up and he becomes the governor and Barbara Gordon becomes the commissioner, and it's this whole weird like perchance the dream thing.
And it's awesome, and they're like, by the way, Bruce Wayne just gave himself up. He was funding 18 Batmen that were running around.
Because yeah, that's your big clue that what you're reading is not reality. Because we haven't talked about this, but and I think this is actually part of my disappointment with this, Austin, is Harvey Dent has this interesting theory that no one man could take the kind of beating that Batman would every night, and so he must be a whole army. There must be like a bunch of people, a bunch of vigilantes that Gordon is funding, and he starts going down this rabbit hole trying to find out who Batman is. And he gets his hands on a remote control Batarang, and he's like putting the pieces together. And I really kind of liked that angle for like as Harvey Dent is getting closer to becoming Two-Face, he's finding out the duality of Batman. Like that's a really cool idea. And it's and this being an 89 thing, this is one way in which it is pretty authentic. Not a lot of detective work that happens in this. No. There is a mystery as far as what the corruption is with the money and with the blackmail documents and all of that. But Batman doesn't really do a lot to uncover it. Like Two-Face kind of figures it out, and then Batman just gets that from him. But I don't like that Two-Face doesn't end up finding out who Batman is through his research. Like, I kind of wish he did the detective thing, because at the end he still ends up finding out Bruce Wayne is Batman. So like, that was the point of that. All roads were leading there, and that made me kind of feel like Hamm was being a little bit lazy in how he got to that, just and partly just for the sake of a cool parallel image where you've got Batman's face split down the middle, where you see that he's Bruce Wayne, and then Harvey Dent Two-Face takes a picture of it, and then he's gonna blackmail Batman with that. Also, really convenient timing that at the very moment that he gets his hands on all these blackmail documents, he also thinks that he's gonna have control of Batman also. How convenient! Wouldn't have felt as convenient if he was deducing all of this himself all along, and got to it by himself. So that was a frustration I had.
No, I mean, that is a place where it is very much like these movies. It's a really cool image. I cry foul that his non-Batman side has eye makeup on it, but
yeah,
I agree. I think
we'll look at that in a second when we get there.
That would have been cool. It's a weird place where I'm like, I don't know how to judge this entirely. Where I'm like,
yeah, I was just about to say that. No, that is frustrating.
You know, okay, I agree entirely, but then I also go, but then those like movies aren't especially thoughtful. Like, at what point does it have to find that line? And I don't know, but I do agree. I do think you could have done something better with that.
Well, that's where Hamm is walking this maybe impossible line, right? Where I know the author I'm reading and what he's capable of, and I also know that he's trying to make this authentic to those movies to some degree, but he's having his cake and eating it too, where I don't feel like we can praise him for being so much more thoughtful and sophisticated and the story making more sense overall than those movies tend to, and also give it a pass when it doesn't make sense. Like, what is it? What, you know, like what's the thing supposed to be? And that's why I almost wish it was just a more crazy, like more superficial, ridiculous piece. Because I'm finding myself more frustrated with the more thoughtful stuff, because I feel like it's pretty sloppy with some of that.
Yeah, because I feel like almost objectively, it's playing with more ideas than those movies ever did.
Yeah.
But you're right, like, it's not exactly like catching every ball it's throwing up in the air. So then it becomes a question of, do you give it a bonus for that, or is it a detracting thing?
No, I'm so glad you said that, Austin. It's like, what are the standards? And Hamm can't decide what his own standards are.
Yeah, and I feel like, at least for me, he comes somewhere down in the middle, where I'm like, okay, it doesn't feel like that movie, and like, it feels like his original script and those movies kind of surgically attached together.
Yep.
And
that's a great way to put it.
And I feel like ultimately I walk away going, like, I like this probably about as well as I like those movies, which is probably like a 6 out of 10. But like I enjoyed it. Like, it was fun. It's a good time.
So getting back to the dream sequence thing real quick, Harvey, like we said, he's got this insane fake out that I bought for a minute until it got like too impossible, and then he wakes up, and it turns out, of course, that none of that was true. And sorry, I'm trying to remember the point I was going to make with that. I was trying to get back to this.
No, it's okay.
And I forget where I was going with it. There's all reason I brought that up, but
I had the same thing for like a second, where like he walks out and I'm like, oh, it was like a fake out, and then maybe because he's still outside the burning building, I'm like, maybe it's gonna flare up, and he had that stuff on his face and it's gonna light him on fire. And then the second he walks away from that, I was like, this is a dream, isn't it? And then you get like, oh, you're the governor now, Harvey. Congratulations.
So I know what I was going to say. Where I couldn't decide which personality was which side, it's not just a matter of who do the bubbles belong to. What I mean is, when he's like in sort of hallucinating or like having a conversation with himself, with the whole weird many worlds theory thing, the Harvey Dent from the weird dream sequence universe that we read comes to him and says, I like the many worlds theory is real and everything that can happen does happen, and I'm from a universe where everything worked out for you, and you have turned out to be from a universe where everything has come crashing down. And they keep talking to each other throughout the book, and my question is, which one represents which side of the face?
Well, he's the bad one, and then that one's the good one. That one's the one that got everything, and then he's the one that lost it all.
So that means that whenever they're talking and you do actually have the balloons coming like from the two sides of the face, and you have the weird squiggly one, and you have the nice normal happy one.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that the Harvey Dent that we have lived with the whole book is actually now like the angry squiggly one. Because if that's true,
mm-hmm.
that's a new cool twist we've never done before.
Mm-hmm. Basically, but it's like that multiverse thing's like entirely in his head. Like they are both him, but like that is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's any actual truth in the multiverse. Like this goes to a real multiverse place. It's not doing that.
I love though that it's like the good Harvey Dent comes out and does like a It's a Wonderful Life or like Christmas Carol thing.
Yeah.
Where he's like, look at all these ways your life could have gone wrong, Harvey, but I got it all, loser. You lost it all.
I had a hard time figuring out this is where it gets convoluted to me also. I had a hard time figuring out how exactly that translates to the coin flip. And then I just chalk it up to, yeah, the guy's nuts now.
It is definitely a bit of the, it's nuts, but it's supposed to just be like, once something happens, it always splits off into twos. So like that is the justification. It's which universe are we going to go into? And the coin is just the universe.
But what was weird about that to me is the other Harvey says, look at all the power we have with choice. And I go, well, yeah, wouldn't you have more power if you decided what you were going to do? Like, if it wasn't... Like, you don't have power in giving the power to the coin.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also a part where he breaks the... he goes against the coin. And
yes.
It's one of the only places I've ever seen where I actually liked it for Two-Face. Because I feel like we use it a lot in, like, a cheap way. But I like that what it is that... it's because it's he kidnaps Gordon at one point, and he's holding him at gunpoint, and Gordon's kind of egging him on, and he flips the coin and it lands and he shoots, and the good side's like, what the hell, like it landed on the good side, but it's like he got egged on so much that he just has like an emotional reaction and shoots without thinking, because ultimately all of that is just him.
Yeah,
I thought that was a neat idea.
Well, and then there's one place where he interprets the positive flip in a negative way on purpose, and I wasn't sure how I felt about.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how I felt about that.
That is like a big movie moment where I was like, I can see that scene in the Burton movie, because that's your Joker killing what's his face, the guy at the table when they all have their meeting. Like it's that scene, right? Where he electrocutes him. And I was like, oh, I can see this in the movie.
John Kelling, he's broken into cope. His psychosis is to imagine a better version of himself telling him how he can fix his life. Yeah, but, like, he's basically telling him that if he made all the right choices... Well, actually... I'm gonna actually go back on what I was about to say. I was gonna say what he's telling him is to make. Maybe I'm figuring it out as we're talking about it. That if he made all the right choices, he would be in a good place in his life. But he's actually saying that it's arbitrary. That like for the good one to get everything that he wanted in this imaginary version of events, he said a bunch of accidents had to happen.
Yeah, it's more so that than choice. Because like for example,
no, you're right.
The good ending for him going in to save Robin from that fire isn't that he made a choice. It's that Robin was actually in the building, where in the what actually happens is he's on top of the roof, so he's not actually in the fire. So like it is more of a like random act of God.
So it's
like,
a different way to get to like destiny and like justice and all of that with Two-Face than we've done it before. So I mean, it's cool that it's got an angle, I guess. It just feels like a really convoluted angle.
I mean, it definitely is, but I thought it was really neat, and it was just nice having a Two-Face that could be silly again, where it's like we take.
Well, and his look is so good.
It's so good. I like.
We'll get to that here in a little bit.
So much of it was just being refreshed, and like, oh yeah, like this is what I want Two-Face to be. Like it's got so many of those elements while also being a completely new take on Two-Face at the same time.
Well, and it's really refreshing right after Cape Crusader.
Yeah.
Because I don't love their Two-Face.
I don't love Arkham Two-Face. I don't love Nolan Two-Face. It's been piling.
Well, that's true, and I like that better than you do, but
it's been piling and piling, and then this hit, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I really like Two-Face when he's done well.
I think the many worlds idea, because I just had sort of like an epiphany with it. I feel like that's not brought to the fore or like talked about maybe the way it should be, because I think the idea, as we're talking about it, is maybe supposed to be that if he buys into the idea that the way your life goes is random chance, and that there are maybe all these universes where anything that could happen does happen, then it doesn't matter what you do, because you are just one of a bazillion versions of yourself that will all experience everything there is to experience. So you might as well just flip a coin, because you're not the only you. Like, I wish that was talked about more.
Well, I think that's what it's getting at when the good Harvey shows up and he's like, remember this event that happened? This is how it flips and you become a bad person. Remember this thing? This is how it flips and you're a bad person. And he like goes through his life where he's like, here's all these different events where like it flips off, and like this is the evil version of you that spins off of that one.
I also think there's now that we're getting to the crux of that, there is maybe a what's the word I'm looking for? There's maybe a literal multiverse way in standard DC to handle this with Harvey Dent. Like, imagine you had a Harvey Dent in a world where people don't yet know about the multiverse, who somehow finds out about it, and it makes him lose his mind, where he's like, a Harvey Dent that is already kind of broken and discovers that there are all of these other Harvey Dents.
He sees that there are 52 universes, and then it slowly boils down until he's like, there's two sides.
And you could do a cool meta thing with it where he represents the fans that are sick of multiverse.
Well, that'll be the good side, the correct side. The evil side will be like more.
I'm stuck on this page right now because I wanted to talk about this. This was one of my favorite things this did visually, because like we said, it's not obnoxious with references, but occasionally it'll do a cool one. I kind of couldn't believe that this suit showed up. This makes me happy. Are you familiar with this?
No, this was actually one of those things where I'm like, is that like too modern, where he's got like a little thing that's like doing the like heart beeping?
No. So
okay,
what that is almost exactly the outfit that the Bruce Wayne that you put the pieces on and becomes Batman action figure had.
Oh, okay.
That's what that is. They based that on that action figure. And in the spot where he's got the heart monitor thing, in the action figure, it's a bat, which I always thought was, as a kid, was the dumbest thing. Because I'm like, so he's trying to have a secret identity, but he's got a bat on his Bruce Wayne outfit. What's that about? I think the idea is supposed to be, and this is the way it plays it, is that that's like the undergarment that he wears when he has his bat suit.
Yeah, I think so too.
And it was just really neat to see it in this. That's
Oh,
that's
that
the
is
that's the
cool.
kind of fan service I can get behind, because that was one of my favorite figures when I was a kid. So it's just really neat to see that show up. And I've always been a giant fan of Michael Keaton with the turtleneck, and we get a couple of different turtleneck looks in this, which made me happy.
Mhm. No, I caught that too, and I was like, "That's neat." But I mean, stuff like that's not. I think we talked about this when we did the Ghostbusters Afterlife commentary. Like, there is good and bad fan service. Like, it's not all Easter eggs are created equal.
Yeah.
So, like, something like that is way better than I pass. What did you say? Pass the like, as in pass the salt.
Ugh.
Like,
Well, I think it's the difference between incorporating it. It's a couple things, right? It's incorporating it into your world building in such a way where it just looks like a stylistic choice if you're not familiar with it. Like, you didn't know what that was, but it didn't take you out. It was just a weird thing that they did. But there's another layer for me because I'm familiar with that, so that was cool. But it's that, and then it's that versus pandering.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this book is not doing that.
No, at the very least, we can praise it for that.
Yeah, and Sam Hamm also, other things from his script that he didn't get put into the other movies. We get the big Bruce Wayne confronts the villains in the Batcave that was in his Batman too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he always wanted that.
It's not over treasure buried in the Batcave, but
Thank God.
You have our big confrontation.
No, and I like Two-Face going down there. I like Two-Face trying to blackmail Batman. I like the way Bruce stands his ground and says, yeah, you'll just have to kill me, whatever. Now, you could maybe call this, pandering or bad fan service or whatever, especially because it's a major plot point. I'm not really on board with Alfred lets Catwoman into the Batcave. I don't love that.
That was a callback where it was like, okay.
Well, and it's a callback. It throws him under the bus. It's like, this is just what Alfred does. It's also way out of character, even with Batman Returns, because Alfred, and I always really respected this choice. Alfred throughout Batman Returns really doesn't like Selina Kyle, and is like very irritated with Bruce for constantly pursuing her, and can tell that this is a destructive entity. This would be a toxic relationship. What are you doing with this woman? In this, you get to the end, and he's like, well, you said I couldn't interfere, but you didn't say anything about her. And like, you know who Selina Kyle is. You know she's a complete nutbag, and you're going to let her into the Batcave so that she can completely sabotage Batman's plan.
Well,
Alfred's an asshole in that scene.
All you do is cut that dialogue, and it's fine. Like, Selena's been to the Batcave.
I don't need to know how she got.
She snuck in. She's Catwoman.
Well, she actually says she's never been there before. But
no, she's in a scene earlier.
What's that?
She's in a scene earlier where she and Robin get there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so that's the place where she says she's.
That's where she says it. Yeah.
So you don't need any explanation for how she got in.
Because when Bruce Wayne said it, and then you had that moment with Alfred, I was like, oh, I thought she just like snuck in.
John Kelling,
like a thing.
John Kelling says, I can't wait for Alfred to let Barbara into the Batcave in Echoes.
Well, she's probably gonna go to his door because Bruce Wayne gets outed to her at the end, so she's probably gonna go to the door, and Alfred's gonna be like, right this way, Madam Commissioner.
I also, just coming right off of reading this, and maybe if maybe you can change my mind on this, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as much as nobody likes movie Gordon, especially when you get to Forever Batman and Robin, I do feel like he's thrown under the bus here. I don't love what's done with him.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting where I was like, okay, he gets a little bit more to do because Sam Hamm's writing it. He felt more like 89 Gordon to me than Returns Gordon. I don't even remember what Gordon does in Returns. But
What
like, in
he
what way? Like, what way are you thinking?
he walks along with Batman at the beginning after
That's
Batman
right.
takes out the circus gang. And he talks with them for a minute, and then that's it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that
Uh,
was the moment where he's gone too far.
which is a thing that the book addresses, because the resurrection being this midpoint between 89 and Returns says that Batman's not showing himself to the police yet, and he's so it's kind of building toward eventually he'll actually be working with Gordon, but and he is to a degree, but he doesn't like show up and let himself be photographed. And then by Returns, he's just walking around with people. It's kind of nice that we've got a bridge with that.
Oh, I just remembered. There is one callback that I think they could have gotten away with,
What's that?
which is when Batman saves Gordon and they're on top of the roof. I could have had a "How much do you weigh?" line there because it would have been valid.
Yeah, well, so we make a really big deal for some reason out of the fact that Gordon is exactly 58 years old. I don't know what that's about, but his age keeps coming up. And when he says, is this amusing moment where Batman is flying him and like is gliding him, and he just says, I'm 58. Like, he just says that.
God damn it, Jim! I'm 58.
And what I wanted the callback to be was when they landed, Batman to look at him and say, "You're a little older than 58." That's what I wanted it to be.
Oh, that would have been good. Because when that happened, I was like, I've seen Gordon in those movies. I don't know if Batman could have like flown down with him, considering he struggled to grapple up with Vicky.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I was like, you could have gotten away with a "How much do you weigh?" right there.
Yeah, that would have been. Well, it seems like information, but it seems like pertinent information right then.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, okay, so where I felt weird about it is they him basically by the end comes out and says Gordon works with Batman because he's lazy, and it feels a little in a way it feels almost too tongue-in-cheek, where it's like that character has that reputation because of the later movies that aren't even in continuity with this. Like, he doesn't seem completely incompetent in 89. And I don't really know. There are places where I can't decide what he's saying exactly about the character of Batman. It seems like Batman in this universe is a really bad idea. And like Sam Hamm as the writer is saying, Bruce Wayne is a little more out to lunch than other versions, and he just does this because he's an eccentric rich person and he can't get over his parents' death, and there's some truth into what Selena Kyle says to him when she's berating him about that. And there's that place where the beginning where Bruce says to Alfred, if I get to the point where I feel like I'm doing more harm than good, I'll stop. And you get to the end and he's absolutely doing more harm than good. And he can't decide if he's going to keep going, so he flips a coin?
Well, he's having too much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, which is I guess kind of fun and how silly it is, but like I don't know how serious to take this at that point. You see, I know I'm talking about a couple different things right now, but that's just another example of the question of how are we supposed to see Batman? Like, Robin is trying to teach him what he could be to the city and to the people on the streets, and then it feels like everything else about the book is just saying, Batman is kind of an eccentric, crazy person that needs to put his suit away.
Yeah, I do think.
And I have that with Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with Gordon, it was like kind of like a hard thing for me to kind of place with him, where it's like, oh, we're giving Gordon way more to do, and Gordon is such a non-entity to me in those movies, where it's like he felt like a completely different character, just in that he got to say things now, and like he gets to be a part of it.
Sure, I guess
Uh,
it's also a place where I can't help but think about just like because now he's more of a character. I'm also, I guess, comparing him more to Comic Book Gordon, and
mhm.
I'm going, do I like that we're doing a Gordon that again seems to? I mean, he comes out and admits like, uh, I was trying to. How exactly does he put it? He says I did this for expediency more than for principle. That's what he says,
Mhm.
and I guess there's supposed to be a bit of a character arc there, and then he has to like redeem himself and have almost like a sacrificial death. And again, he just feels kind of thrown under the bus. It's like this is a
Yeah.
kind of crappy character who redeems himself at the end, and he's the reason that Batman is able to operate with the police. And that's just, it's always handled in a more endearing way than that. So I'm resisting it because I can't decide how to feel about it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Because I didn't even really have
And then
that
where does
thought.
it come from? Is it just Pat Hingle's Gordon in the other movies is an incompetent dingbat,
Mhm.
and so he's got to be just a lazy ass, and that's why he works with Batman?
I think part of it is just. I think he's likable enough throughout. Like you do have that moment with Barbara where he comes out and says that, but it reminded me of the Rises part where he has that the filth speech, but it felt more earned because that really is this Gordon. But also like throughout the book, you're
No,
seeing
that's true, but it took too long to get to any likability for him for him with me. Like I did
fair
not find
enough.
him at all likable.
I think kind of immediately the first time we see him is when Bullock, because now we have Bullock and he is the Eckhart of this because Eckhart was just Bullock in '89.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
Bullock,
that's weird to me. I would just leave Bullock out at this point. It's like you already killed that guy. Like stop it.
because you do have like kind of an '89 callback thing where Bullock is going a little crazy and then Gordon shows up and he like calms the situation down. So like from that point, that being his introduction, I was like, okay, like maybe there's truth to what Harvey's saying about him, and I mean that's Bruce Wayne and Alfred are both saying that there possibly is too, but like at the same time we also see that he's not a bad person. It's like I kind of got like likability out of him from that, but fair enough.
I guess that's fair. I'm struggling with the way this book is communicating ideas sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Where you seem to trust your own read on it more than I am.
Well, I think a part of it's just like, oh my god, there's like ideas in this world.
Sure, but again, it's Sam Hamm. I'm expecting that if he's not being rewritten.
No, no, I agree, but like there's just like ways in which I feel like it is going more back to that original script than those movies. But like it is definitely a tightrope. Tightrope.
Nicholas Bodo, is this the worst Gordon? No. Well, and like I like him a lot more once we get to the death scene. It's more, it's less how I once you get the whole package. It's less how I feel about the character and more how I feel about the choice to do this with him. Is
Hmm.
I just don't know how to feel about it. But
Yeah.
because when you get to his death, I really like his speech to Harvey, where he's like, well, now I know Barbara will do the right thing because she'll never forgive you for doing this. And I thought that, like, he dies with dignity, like it's a really
Yeah, and I was
dignified
surprised they killed
death.
him off.
So I like that. Well, and it's funny because like we kill off relatively major characters just because we can. So like we and just to go our own way. So we kill off Gordon. Barbara's a sergeant, so she'll probably be a commissioner later, or would eventually. We also know that I haven't read Echoes, but there's a character on covers that looks like a Batgirl, so I'm gonna assume that she's Batgirl in that.
Hmm. It would be interesting though if she's commissioner and there's a different Batgirl. Like we have a different Robin here, so like it is possible.
Well, and then you also have Catwoman calling herself Barbara Gordon's Oracle, which was not a line I needed.
Yeah, that was a little strange.
I didn't like that. Um,
Barbara Gordon's also almost entirely behind a computer in this book.
Yeah, that's
it's like
true.
almost every time we see her, she's behind the computer. Except she needs Catwoman to handle her computer because she's not good with it.
Well, I was gonna say you could have a cool like war between them in a sequel where the two of them are doing computer things because of Oracle. Because like it is consistent that Selena Kyle would be good at that from Returns. But I was gonna say the worst Gordon would, at least off the top of my head, not counting just bad performances, because that voice from the first Arkham game is nuts.
I thought you were gonna go to the first Arkham game.
No,
like that voice isn't great, and also he only shows up to get kidnapped.
That's true too. But and I mean, this Gordon does a little bit more than that, but he also kind of shows up to get kidnapped. But the Gordon in the animated adaptation of Gotham by Gaslight is just objectively the worst Gordon.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's a completely different thing.
That's just the correct answer, I think.
And then the best Gordon objectively is Batman and Robin, where he gets seduced and then he's like, "Come back, don't leave."
You know, it's funny to me that this is one of my favorite covers, because I've always been a big fan of the Hello There thing. It's just weird, and I like it.
All the covers are great, yeah.
But what's amusing about this cover to me is you can look at this at a glance because of the position that Catwoman is in here and not realize the suit is weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
like it is that suit. If you look close at it, it's got those legs.
My God, you're right. I think I glanced at this and thought it just was that suit.
It's not. It is their suit, but it's almost like it's strategically positioned where you won't notice it.
She's hiding it. Oh my God.
I need an action figure of this Two-Face. It's such a good design, and it's very close to what I would have expected they would have done.
And you know what it has to come with? His awesome car that we don't get enough coverage of.
Uh-huh.
His car is so cool, where he's got like a very fancy car, and then when we cut to it, when he's Two-Face, he's like smashed in the light at the front, half of the windshield, like half of the grill. It's awesome.
I don't mean to harp on this for too long, because this is who cares and whatever, but I do wonder about the genesis of the Joker gang, because in this they're back to wearing the jackets from the first movie. And so then my question is the circus gang a completely different thing?
I think it is, but I feel like it's kind of hard to tell with that in Returns to begin with.
It is.
We're like, I don't know that the circus gang is actually connected to the Joker in Returns, but like it just happens to be a circus themed thing, so like it kind of seems similar enough.
The panel layouts on this page are really cool.
There's some really cool panel layouts in different pages, especially when they want to do something big.
And it was neat to see a bat cycle with shields.
Yeah, it was cool.
I don't think there's enough like cool original 89 tech in this, but what we get is good. Mm-hmm. Like the hologram thing I'm totally on board with. And yeah, I'm also spoiled a little bit in the novel because this does a ton of it. Like John Jackson Miller is obsessed with that stuff, and he goes to meticulous detail to tell you exactly how all of it works. Which is kind of neat, but he's got like though, and this is one of the other reasons this can't be canonical with this book, because when Batman decides that he has to wear a different costume so people don't know that he's operating, he wears just a generic like ski mask and stuff, kind of like Phantasm.
Yeah,
and in Resurrection, he has this stealth suit that basically can turn invisible.
Oh, well, that suit broke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
John Kelling brought up a good
real
point.
quick, I just gotta say this. It's neat the reason Miller uses it, because he does that so that Batman can operate during the daytime.
Mm-hmm. That's what I figured.
Which is a really cool idea.
No, it's cool.
He's only invisible when it's not nighttime.
John Kelling brought up a good point, and it's funny because we talked about this a little bit earlier, and it like completely blanked like right over me when you said it just now. But they're not actually the Joker gang in this book either. They're just like people that have adopted that look, like the Sons of Batman.
Yeah, that's true. But I still wonder what the Circus gang ever was. Like, I wonder if they were like ever inspired by the Joker.
Yeah, I don't know. We may never know. Maybe that's in Echoes. Because we're getting Harley back.
Lover, $2 super chat. This Two-Face is pulling from TAS, apparently. I don't know if he just means because of the look. Because, yeah, the suit is similar. That the black and white pinstripes, that's a TAS thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And he looks really cool. It's also, like, the most Burton designed in this book.
Yeah.
Because that's 100% what Burton would have done with it.
Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. Who is more evil, Two-Face or Hitler? Are you going to do it every time? Anytime we're talking about somebody evil.
It depends on the iteration, but maybe Two-Face? No, definitely. Let's flip a coin.
Yeah, let's do a version of, like an alternate version of Hitler in comics that is Two-Face. It's like a...
That's true. There's enough iterations of Hitler in comics that you could do like a whole multiverse of
something else, just as a fan of this material, that I found myself a little bit disappointed in was just not having any more like supporting cast characters. Like,
oh sure,
I'd like Knox, somebody like that.
Well, I always forget that he doesn't die at the end of that movie. Like, even
that might be why Hamm doesn't have him here. You could have Sam Hamm going, well, my Knox died. I'm not going to write Knox. Maybe that, and that's fair if that's why he didn't do it.
But you could have also added someone else. It might just be because we have so many characters already. Yeah. Like, you have, like, an added Barbara. You have an added Robin. We're doing more with Gordon. Like, it might just be that. We don't really need Catwoman here, but she's here. Like, it might just be he didn't have room for more characters. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I think a lot of the initial ideas in that first issue are really provocative and make you kind of raise your eyebrow and go, gee, I wonder where all this is going, which is part of the thing that disappointed me with it, where none of it was as interesting as where I thought it might go, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
And so, like, the idea of doing a Barbara Gordon that is introduced as a love interest for Harvey Dent and then will be a bad girl later, like, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. And it also, like, you also read it, as it was coming, while I read it just, like, in a quick blur. So, like, I feel like if you're left to
that makes a difference, doesn't it?
Maybe I would have been thinking about that more. I don't know. Because it absolutely makes a difference.
Well, yeah, because I read that first issue, like, 5 times before I read any more of it.
That's what I mean, yeah, and you're, like, left to stew on it for, like, a month, where you're like, oh, man, like, where's this gonna go?
Yeah, well, in my case, more than a month. Like, it was a long time before I finally read all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just like, oh, on to the next thing.
Well, somehow we've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes, so what else didn't we cover with this?
You immediately know that this is a comic book because there's no Batmobile chase.
That's true. Yeah, we don't do a lot of cool car stuff. Well, there is, but it's really brief. We do a thing where the Batmobile. That's where we do the hologram thing.
It's just because cars are hard in comics, so it's like you can't really do like a car chase and make it like really cool for like 10 pages.
Well, and you're not as likely to get that with a guy that primarily does screenplays and is as dialogue driven as like this is like me trying to do an action thing. Like, I can't write a car chase.
I mean, the ending confrontation is just 2 people talking. Like, it's not a big action sequence.
You have no place in this where it's just action without dialogue, with very little dialogue. Like, it's not that kind of book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And that's maybe a little bit of a letdown, just because those movies are so visual. Like, I don't mean that they're super action driven. I mean, in places they are. Mm-hmm. But they're more like moody, and they're visual driven before they're action driven, right? So it is, and I'm not saying that we have a Batman that is talking too much. Like, he's not as monosyllabic as he is in the movies, but he's still, at least in the suit, kind of little spoken. That's another place the book does a little better. But but he at least is not, constantly speechifying.
Yeah, you're not going to get this because you haven't seen it, but for the audience, it's oddly kind of like a Doctor Sleep situation, where it's like you have somebody coming in, decades later going, okay, I'm going to adapt the Doctor Sleep book, but it also is a sequel to the Shining movie, which Stephen King doesn't like. So, like, you have to balance that tightrope where he also has to be on board with what you're doing.
Yeah, you're so right about that.
It's kind of like that, where it's like it's got to be a sequel to the '89 stuff, but also that's not what Sam Hamm would have made.
Yeah.
So, like, it has a different flavor while being a sequel, and I think both of them walk the tightrope well enough, but like there's places where they kind of stumble off a little bit.
That's the perfect analogy. And no, I've not seen that, but I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that has more of a drastic, like, oh, this is the part where it steps off the tightrope. But
well, do you see why I'm saying I wish Sam Hamm was allowed to just make his own alternate universe? Which I get why they might think that wouldn't sell as well, but there's also precedent for those things doing really well, where like you adapt a different draft of a script, like the Star Wars, like Sitting on the Edge of Forever, like RoboCop 2. Like there's lots of these, but what we've never done, as far as I know, maybe we did with RoboCop, I'm not sure, but what I don't think we've ever really done is like go back and do an old version and then keep moving from there. I don't know if we've ever done that.
I don't think so. If this were Dark Horse, they maybe would have thought to do the script thing first, but absolutely.
It's kind of an out there concept for, mainstream Big Two stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Especially when they were gun shy to do this in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can see why they didn't. I'm just saying I kind of wish that's what it had been. But then again, I didn't have that thought until I read it and didn't love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Jareth Gearhart, I find it weird that this is called Batman 89. In my mind, I always reference those films as Tim Burton's Batman. If DC did this before they did Batman 66, it may not have been called that. But they've got this precedent set now where if you go back to a screen adaptation and then you do a comic version, it's the date. We did it with 66. We did it with Wonder Woman 77.
Superman 78.
Then along with this, we did Superman 78. And then again on the Marvel side, there's precedent with X-Men 92 and 93. That's just how we do it now.
Mm-hmm. This book came out a little too late to do it. Years later, like we have like X-Men 97. Maybe that can set the new precedent of you go, okay, well, this is how many years into the future it is.
Right, yeah. Well, and with this, the branding is just too easy and obvious if you throw 89 on it.
That's the distinguishing thing of this universe. We all know that's Batman 89 because the title is just Batman.
Well, because that Superman movie has never been referenced by anybody as Superman 78. Like, that's not how anybody calls that. It's always Richard Donner's Superman or it's just Superman. And even now that we're about to have a movie just called Superman, I don't think you're going to hear people suddenly start saying Superman 78. Like, it's Richard Donner's Superman. That's how everybody refers to it.
And it probably has to be that because Richard Donner didn't work on that book, so they probably would have gotten like backlash if they did like Richard Donner's Superman.
I wouldn't have been okay with that either. Like what do you call it?
Yeah. No, that one's kind of rough. Superman : the comic.
But I'm fine with the precedent with that. It's just I'm such a title stickler. It's weird to me to have 89 in the title, but that's not when it takes place. Like this just, especially because that is an inconsistent thing now. Because at least with X-Men, we keep making the date whenever the thing is supposed to be set. That's going to become a problem in that cartoon show, though, if they don't keep changing the title. because they're aging the characters as they go. Like X-Men 97 is not going to always take place in 1997. Like, the next season will have to be 98 or 99.
Well, it is Disney, who are the kings of changing the titles so that you don't have to pay your cast as much. So that'll probably happen.
So it could happen, but that'll
be by season 3.
That show was so huge, the branding of it, I think they're gonna really struggle with.
Well, it'll just be like X-Men 97 : a couple of years later.
It's just gonna be X-Men 97, but there's always a dash with the next year. X-Men 97 to 99, and then it just looks like somebody died.
I was gonna say you could also do like X-Men 97 year 3.
Jareth Gerhardt, besides Cap, I've never heard anyone refer to it as 89. I mean, I have. That's not just me. That's the pretty popular way to refer to that movie.
I've heard like some normies say like the Jack Nicholson Batman, but like
fans typically call it 89, and that branding has been used on a lot of merchandise well before this, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty popular. Now, I will say, sometimes it's 1989, sometimes it's 89, but the year is always in there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think the character that is most in character from the movies in this book, and that I had the voice for in my head most often, was Catwoman.
Oh, okay. Well, she's also just crazy.
She's just insane, and it makes Batman a little bit less sympathetic to me that he is still still thinks that that it might work out with her.
He knows she's riding the hot crazy scale, and I respect it, because this Batman is also crazy.
That's true.
So I'm like, I get it.
I do like that we make the way he handles her in Returns a character trait in this. We turn it into a pattern where we go, he's got a savior complex, and he thinks that he can save Harvey Dent the same way he thought he could save her. That's good.
Yeah, I really liked that there was that moment between them where he's like, I could have saved him, like I could have saved you, and that's like the thing that snaps their relationship.
Yeah, that really triggers her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I also really like the idea that he has like a coin that's not scarred, and he gets Harvey to pass him the coin, and then he passes it back, and he's like, flip the coin on if you're gonna like help me or if you're gonna kill me right now.
Yeah.
And his plan is that he's gonna flip him the actual coin, but this Batman's so destructive that he doesn't. He like subconsciously flicks him back the actual scarred one.
Yeah, I couldn't decide what to make of that.
I just thought that was interesting, where it's like there is a part of Batman that is maybe, riding that adrenaline line and, is maybe okay with dying. That
you think that's what it is? Because I just thought he was being incompetent. I was like, why did he give him that coin?
No, I think that was like a subconscious, like, this is who Batman is deep down.
Well, and he does stuff like that in Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Where like there's places where he can't decide which version of himself he's talking about. We talked about that when we did the commentary, where he's got this weird identity thing, and I didn't think he was quite that neurotic in '89, so I'm having to kind of adjust to, oh yeah, that's right, Returns happened, and he is still that version.
Mm-hmm. No, this Batman's just crazy. He's like, I'm gonna light you on fire, I'm gonna bomb your factory.
For as gigantic of a Batman 89 fan as I am, I do not understand this character.
It's all good. We love to see it. This man's insane.
I really don't. I don't understand this guy. Makes no. I can't relate to him whatsoever. I've seen this movie 500 times.
Even in the multiverse of Bruce Wayne choices, he took all the crazy ones.
But yeah, like I said, I don't love this. We found some interesting things in it that I didn't appreciate while I was reading it. I would maybe have a better read again, looking at it later on. But like I said, a lot of it is just subjectively. This is not what I want from this material.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough. And I mean, we also differ just on 89 Two Returns. So I guess it's not shocking that we differ on this quite a bit too.
Yeah, well, honestly, Austin, I have to say I thought you would like this a lot less than you did.
Yeah, I went in kind of dreading it because you've always said that it's not great, and I was like, oh.
And I mean finally finishing, but I mean finally finishing it today. I was like, I don't think Austin's gonna like this because I know you typically resist the take on Batman that he's just a rich guy that punishes poor people, and this is that.
I think it's also just that I'm like, it's kind of just how I see the Keaton Bat. Like, he's so far removed from how I see Batman anyways. So it's like, there's like a differentiating thing between Bird and Batman to begin with. Where, like, when I watch them, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm actually watching Batman anyways.
Well, and I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but I think I'm more critical of this because it doesn't look like those movies to me. Like... I probably wouldn't have had as many issues with the story if I wasn't kind of subconsciously thinking about comic book Batman, because it looks like a comic book. I know that's stupid. It is a comic book, but like it doesn't really feel like those movies to me. I like more so as it goes along, just in some of the like again weird choices made toward the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, very true.
But it never looks like that world, and so
it doesn't look like that Gotham.
You have to keep reminding me. Oh yeah, it's that Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like as we're talking, I think you're taking it on its own terms better because I'm struggling with choices it's making as a comic book Batman thing, and you're like, well, it's 89 and Returns. He's a crazy person. And
yeah,
I get that, but while I'm reading it, I'm struggling with it. If that makes any sense at all.
Fair enough. And I think because I like really see Keaton in the face, and you didn't too. So like, I also have that where I'm like, oh yeah, it's just Keaton Batman being crazy. Nicholas Spoto, I think, makes a good point. I wouldn't have thought of this, but I guess I kind of do feel this way, where it's like Keaton Batman is a perversion in the same way that like All Star is. And I also love All Star, so.
Yeah, and I don't. But, I mean, I definitely agree with that to a point, yeah.
Yeah, he's not as far as All-Star Batman and Robin, but he's not super far off.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this ending when he just decides that, like, his takeaway from everything that happened with Two-Face is, let's flip a coin? Really?
I do kind of like his, he overhears, I think, the Two-Face, like, multiverse thing. So I do kind of like that we have a moment where he reflects on what his life could have been. I don't know why
I didn't really pick up on that.
I don't know why he ultimately marries Selena in this good universe, but...
Well, because he's still crazy, and maybe the idea is, in his perfect reality, she would be what he wants her to be. Mm-hmm. And so he's not taking what just happened with her to heart when he's imagining that.
No, it is just a fantasy, and I'm mostly joking with that.
Well, that also
kind of funny.
But that also suggests that maybe he still thinks that it's possible to change her.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a part of Echoes.
Well, and the book is also, I think, toward the end, suggesting that he's not totally wrong about her, because the last thing Catwoman does, in her kind of crazy Catwoman way, is try to set up a relationship with Barbara Gordon. Oh, I didn't think about this either. I guess it's supposed to be like Commissioner Gordon is dead, but Barbara is going to be Catwoman's Commissioner Gordon. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of interesting.
No, that is neat.
And so maybe I didn't put that together until just now. So then the idea is she is secretly behind the scenes trying to make Gotham a better place.
Well, maybe.
Well, like, Batman's flipping a coin to even decide if he's going to go on patrol. Now, that's not fair because he's doing philanthropy things behind the scenes. I just feel like this story working out the way it does, this Batman by the end should hang it up.
Yeah, I never really had that thought, but fair enough.
Well, I needed the end of this to convince me that Batman is that Bruce would see it as at least Batman is solving more problems than he's causing, and I don't see how he could have that takeaway by the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the fact that he flips a coin suggests he doesn't know that either.
That's what I was about to say. Is I think he's still kind of conflicted by the end, where he doesn't even really know, but he's going to keep doing it. Do you know which side of the coin is he has to be Batman and which side isn't?
Yeah, I don't know. I also think it's possible that he, because we don't really see each side of it, and we know he's got both coins, so he could be flipping the double head one.
The true answer is the scarred side is Batman, because that's what he's going to do to people, is light them on fire.
No, maybe you've got the right read on the ending, that the idea is supposed to be it's ambiguous as to whether he would even continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's not even really fully sure, and I think that's
or it could be subconsciously, or it could be subconsciously he's going to keep going, and that is the double head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true too.
Especially if you're right on your read earlier that he subconsciously accidentally passed the other coin out in a self-destructive fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't read it like that. I didn't understand why that was happening. But if you're right about that, he could be doing the exact same thing at the end, going, and then it could be almost this kind of interesting sort of twisted thing where Batman is not far enough away from Two-Face, and he's sort of acting like Two-Face.
Oh man, what if he just becomes Batman Two-Face, where he's Batman with the coin? He's like, will I save this person?
And maybe I'm taking this material a little bit too seriously, although I do feel like, especially in the first few issues, Sam Hamm is not having enough fun with this material, and I think he gets a little bit too into the weeds with the politics and stuff. I'm not saying it's bad because he deals with race stuff and political stuff. I'm just saying that stuff gets, like, really in the weeds and kind of convoluted and bogs it down a little bit for my enjoyment of it, I guess. That's not what I expected coming into an 89 thing.
Well, it's kind of like a lesser version of what the Batman does with that same exact idea. But, like, I liked what they did here well enough with it.
And so I just feel like when you get to the end, maybe I'm taking it too seriously, and Sam Hamm is being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, where he's going, well, I'm stuck with what Burton did to what I was trying to make more traditional comic book Batman. So I'm going to make him a guy that might be, like, nutso and neurotic enough where you're questioning yourself whether that guy should even still be Batman at the end.
Mm-hmm. RJ Godzilla says the ending's just a cute way to end a film. We're taking it too seriously. We're taking it more seriously than Sam Hamm.
Well, and actually, I had that thought when I was reading it too.
It does feel like how one of those movies would end.
It does, yeah, because it is sort of like the stupid goodwill to women line at the end of Returns.
But
it's thematic. It's like he's got to say something about chicks because that movie was about sexism or something, and then here he's got to flip a coin because it was about duality or something.
But I cry foul that it did not end on a shot of somebody standing on a roof.
Yeah,
that's how the Bird movies end. You got to do it. It's like not ending a Schumacher Batman story with them running at the camera.
No, instead he's got to remind us how stupid it is that Bruce Wayne has a bat signal in his yard.
Yeah, exactly. I like that, speaking of just like silly bat signal thing, I like that Harvey puts like a little bar to make a line over the bat signal.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun. And it's just the Dark Knight Returns, like the line through the bat signal, because of course he loves Miller. But that's pretty cool.
Brady Atkinson says it's the after credit scene. That's a good way to look at it. Okay, we talked about this way too long, but thanks everybody for joining us. People are asking me when I'm going to review Resurrection. I've just got to get it finished. It's hard for me to find time to read, but I'll try to get this knocked out in the not-too-distant future. And I don't know if it'll happen before Christmas, but I'll try to do it within the next couple of months, hopefully.
Hell yeah.
That'll be a solo thing, because I don't have anybody else that's reading it at the same time as I am, but...
We talked about this 1 hour for every face.
Yeah, and it's almost, if we quit right now, it's almost exactly the length of an 89 commentary.
Oh, good call.
So if you wanted to go back and listen to this, you could watch 89 while we're talking about this. They'll finish up about the same time. What's that?
Is it or Big Trouble in Little China?
Yeah, if you're Austin, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll throw out my pick for next time.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm gonna do the first 6 issues of Skybound Transformers. It's just the first arc,
which I have just sampled a little bit of, but it looks really neat. And I suddenly care a lot more about Transformers than I ever did, because I think Transformers 1 is the best movie I saw this year.
Yeah, it's really good.
Which I can't believe I'm saying that, because I went into that kicking and screaming, and now it's one of my favorite kid movies in the last 10 years, probably.
You've seen it more than I have at this point. You've seen it twice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wanted to show it to Jason and my wife, because they didn't come to the theater with us when we saw it. And Sarah called it the best prequel she's ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not off on a ledge with this, man. Like, people like this movie.
No, that's awesome.
So I'm excited to read that. Is what I'm getting at. It sounds cool.
Oh yeah, I think you'll really dig it.
And the first issue, it has Cliff Jumper.
Oh, he's in all 6.
Oh, is he?
Oh yeah, he's like
exciting.
one of the major characters of that book.
RJ Godzilla, can you both review the Superman 78 comics? I will pick that at some point. It may not be my very next thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, but I do want to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll probably end up talking about that and Echoes at some point as well.
Yeah, we definitely will. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you again with more fun Geekvolution stuff this week. Appreciate you guys. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Yeah, have a good night, everybody.
Good night, folks.